right, so let's get some more insight on this subject. We're joined by Florida Democratic State Representative Anna Eskamani and Leslie K. Jones, an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology at Rutgers University, who has a passage in the Florida courts that drew criticism from the Florida Department of Education. Good morning to you both, and thank you so much for being here with us today about this. So, Leslie, I'll start with you. The reading from the course of Florida has criticized, reads, quote, "Black people produce an unquantifiable amount of content for the same social media corporations that reproduce the white supremacist superstructure that suppresses us." So what was the intention with that passage, and why do you think there has been such criticism about that in particular, Leslie?
I am really glad that you asked me about that passage, because there's something that I want to say before I explain it. First of all, I do stand by what I wrote in the passage, but the most important thing to know is that that passage actually isn't included in the curriculum. I think if you read closely on the poster, you can see that there's kind of an elision there. It says, the citations include Leslie K. Jones, who has said. That's specifically because that passage actually isn't in the curriculum. I actually reached out to the AP College Board to find out the full context in which any of my work was used. And I was told by the College Board that, in fact, my work isn't referenced in the curriculum. My name came up because they provided a list of potential citations to faculty reviewers who, prior to the pilot being actually piloted, were asked for their feedback about the content in the chapters. So there were a few names of scholars that were given to them so that they could check up on the content that was produced in the course, and my name was among those citations. So that language doesn't appear anywhere in the curriculum, and none of my work actually appears in the curriculum.
You know, and that is such a great point, because I think that when we do have this conversation, a lot can get lost in this conversation, when it's like, do we even know what exactly is in this curriculum just yet, right? And in your case, like you just said, it's not even there. So, Representative Eskamani, what is your position on the course being taught in Florida, and what has been your response to Governor Ron DeSantis?
Well, apparently the governor thinks that the lawsuit is a publicity stunt. Well, I'm here to remind folks that everything DeSantis does is a publicity stunt. And the fact that the curriculum of our professor here isn't even in this AP college pilot program, and yet they're attacking her because they say it is one of those examples of Governor Ron DeSantis and his constant conflation, his constant conspiracy theories and culture wars, where he just tries to drive division between all of us. No one should be uncomfortable with learning American history. And I want to reiterate that Black history is American history. And I am proud to stand in solidarity with my colleagues, members of the Black Legislative Caucus, with Ben Crump and others, in fighting back against what DeSantis is doing. And that is continuously distracting Floridians and distracting Americans for his own political gain. Because as he attacks this coursework, he's also defunding public education. Right now, there is a major expansion of privatization happening in Florida, and it doesn't get the same attention because it's not as a hot topic. And so this is what he does. He distracts, deflects, while he destroys fundamental systems in our state, like public education.
So, Leslie, back over to you now. Some of the other concerns from the state of Florida, when you look at that list, I believe there were about 6 or so bullet points, includes topics of intersectionality and activism and the reparations movement even. What is it about those courses that would draw any skepticism and criticism? I mean, it seems like, these are just things that have happened over the course of time, like the Black Lives Matter movement. That's very real. We've all seen it and heard about it. What is the concern here?
I actually think that what is happening is that there is a social movement, and I'm a social movement scholar, and there's a social movement that's going on right now that is an anti-social movement, and that is designed to take away our language and the language of everyday people for talking about American history, period. So what we're looking at is they don't want us to be able to name events that we've seen happen with our own eyes. They don't want us to be able to frame things like Black Lives Matter in the same terms as the civil rights movement. So they're causing a disjuncture, and they're attacking the specific language that scholars are using to talk about these things. And I do want to talk about intersectionality, if you don't mind, really quickly. The point of reducing intersectionality to a race scholarship and erasing the gender and class components is to trick white people into thinking that the theory is an attack on white people. The reason why intersectionality is named intersectionality and not, for example, anti-racism is because intersectionality is specifically supposed to create a bridge to talk about race in the context of gender and class. So Crenshaw is actually explaining how gender and race both operate as social hierarchies. Even though they aren't numbered, those categories cause people to be ranked. So women are materially ranked under men, by which I mean women have historically had less rights in the United States than men. And that's how violence against women is justified. That's how the pay gap is justified. And then Black people are ranked under white people. The classic example is slavery, but there's also segregation. There's the overrepresentation of Black people in prison, and there's the justification of that. So where Black women come in is that, first of all, Kimberly Crenshaw and most of the people who have written about intersectionality are Black women. So it's part of that Black feminist intellectual genealogy. But intersectionally actually explains how one group can be affected by being at the bottom of two hierarchies at once. So a queer woman is at the bottom of two hierarchies. A Black queer man is at the bottom of two hierarchies. It's not just about Black women. And if you read the text, it never was. But the point is they don't want you to read the text.
And so what is the danger then? I mean, when you're talking about these high school students, these are AP courses. I remember in high school, I mean, those were very rigorous courses. But when you're talking about just life knowledge in itself, Leslie, the discouraging part or the danger of not learning this stuff, what would you say to that?
I think that one of the big dangers about about learning this stuff is that we're moving into an era of ignorance. So an era where somebody like Ron DeSantis can just make assertions about what things mean, and people don't have the tools to make a rebuttal. One of the things that you're learning in AP courses, and I'm actually from Florida. I'm a graduate of the International Baccalaureate program, which has a lot of overlap with AP, and I did a lot of these examinations. I took the AP government exams and AP history exams, and what they're designed to do is to introduce you not just to historical events, but to the discourse around historical events. So they teach you what the arguments are on both sides, if you will. They teach you what the citations are that are being used by scholars. That's why the faculty advisors for the College Board were told to reference my work and reference the citations of other scholars, because they are supposed to, before they advise the AP, they're supposed to have an understanding of what the discourse is, who's arguing what and on what side. And that is what Ron DeSantis wants to take away from students who are entering college. And I think it's important to represent that the AP courses are within Florida are supposed to get you college credit. So these are supposed to be in replacement of, often if you're on financial aid, which I would have been, supposed to replace taking courses with college professors. So what they're really trying to do is trying to head off any potential exposure that people have to the facts. And by the facts, I mean what people are actually, who has said what. They want to make it impossible for you to say, well, actually, Crenshaw did not define intersectionality as everybody as people of different races are higher than others or lower than others. That's not actually what she said. Then you won't learn how to look for those works in the first place.
Very good point. All right, over back to you, Representative. What is the reaction in your district from constituents on this issue? Because it's one of those quite polarizing issues from what I'm seeing.
Well, as someone who also grew up in Orlando, Florida, and I went to public schools, I took AP classes. Folks are outraged by this. I represent a diverse community that is actually 75% white, and my district is outraged by this. They're outraged by the governor's continued efforts to divide us versus bring us together. And there's a consensus that knowledge is power. And when you try to take away access to that knowledge, you're intentionally disempowering young people. And I want to just give more context, because it's not just the AP course. I mean, we also have a Don't Say Gay trans bill in Florida that is intentionally targeting LGBTQ plus people. We have book banning in Florida. Now in Florida, not only are classroom libraries being targeted alongside our media specialists and our libraries within the school system, but we're actually seeing classroom libraries just completely shut down because teachers cannot meet the new requirements that the state is placing on them. And of course, on top of all of this, we have the attacks on DEI and the higher ed spaces. So this is all about control. It's all about trying to erase a person's sense of efficacy, a person's sense of understanding and critical thought and freedom of speech under the guise of freedom. And so it's a lot of projection. And our constituents are not just frustrated by this, but we have real issues to solve in Florida. Property insurance rates are out of control. Rent is out of control. We have climate change to address. Energy costs continue to go up. We had major hurricanes hit our state where folks are still living in tents. And I always have to remind folks that really everything comes down to being class wars. The governor wants to make it about culture wars, but really we're seeing economic tensions bubble in our state. And one of the most sadly effective ways to distract people from specifically targeting the actors responsible for the economic disparity, whether it's corporations and or politicians and their inaction, the best way to distract from that are culture wars and scapegoating. So we're trying to bring the attention back to where it needs to be on solving these real problems, not creating more problems.
All right, Florida State Representative Anna Eskamani and Leslie Jones, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate the conversation.